Reports have recently begun circulating across digital platforms suggesting that Yellowstone National Park has been designated a forbidden zone due to an aggressive and unprecedented surge in hantavirus cases. These claims, often accompanied by alarming language describing the park as unsafe for life, have prompted significant public concern regarding the safety of the American West's most iconic wilderness. However, a review of official data from the National Park Service, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and state health departments in Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho shows a different reality. While hantavirus is a persistent and serious health risk in the region, there has been no official declaration of a forbidden zone nor a total closure of the park. To understand why these reports are surfacing now, we must look at the specific nature of hantavirus and the current global public health landscape. Hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, or HPS, is a severe, sometimes fatal respiratory disease in humans caused by infection with hantaviruses. In the United States, the primary carrier of the virus is the deer mouse, a small rodent found throughout North America. The virus is not spread through casual contact between humans in the vast majority of cases. Rather, it is transmitted when viral particles from rodent urine, droppings, or saliva are stirred into the air, a process known as aerosolization, and subsequently inhaled by people. This typically occurs in confined, poorly ventilated spaces such as cabins, sheds, or storage units where rodents have nested. The aggressive nature of the virus mentioned in recent headlines likely stems from its high case fatality rate, which the CDC estimates at approximately 38%. Historically, the western United States has seen sporadic clusters, most notably the 2012 outbreak in Yosemite National Park, which resulted in 10 confirmed cases and 3 deaths. That event led to permanent changes in how national parks manage rodent populations and guest housing. Today, while Yellowstone continues to monitor its rodent populations as part of standard biosurveillance, the park remains open to the public. Health officials emphasize that while the risk is real, it is manageable through awareness and standard precautions. The sensationalized framing of a forbidden zone appears to be an exaggeration of routine public health advisories and a possible conflation with recent more complex hantavirus developments occurring internationally. To find the source of the recent aggressive hantavirus narrative, we must look beyond the borders of Wyoming and toward an ongoing multi-country outbreak that has placed global health agencies on high alert. In May 2026, the World Health Organization and the CDC confirmed a cluster of hantavirus cases linked to a cruise ship, the MV Hondius, which had been traveling from South America toward the Canary Islands. This specific outbreak is significant because laboratory sequencing confirmed the presence of the Andes virus. Unlike the Sin Nombre virus, typically found in the western United States, the Andes virus is the only strain of hantavirus documented to have the potential for human-to-human transmission. As of May 8, 2026, 8 cases have been identified, 6 confirmed and 2 suspected, with 3 fatalities reported. This cluster includes passengers and crew who may have been exposed through close, prolonged contact in the confined environment of the vessel. The index case is believed to have contracted the virus during travel through Argentina, Chile, or Uruguay before boarding. The CDC has been working with international partners to repatriate American passengers to specialized medical facilities, including a high-consequence pathogen unit in Nebraska. This international incident has likely fueled the aggressive surge rumors currently being mapped onto Yellowstone. In the United States, laboratories at the state and federal levels maintain rigorous surveillance systems for hantavirus. Testing involves a combination of polymerase chain reaction, or PCR, to detect viral RNA and serological testing to identify antibodies. Because early symptoms of HPS, such as fever, muscle aches, and fatigue, closely resemble common illnesses like the flu or COVID-19, diagnostic accuracy is critical. Officials note that there is no specific cure or vaccine for hantavirus. Treatment relies heavily on early supportive care, which includes oxygen therapy and, in severe cases, mechanical ventilation. The contrast between the confirmed person-to-person spread of the Andes virus on a cruise ship and the standard rodent-to-human risk in Yellowstone is stark. While agencies are indeed showing heightened vigilance, as noted by the Africa CDC and WHO, this translates to increased testing and monitoring of travelers, not the abandonment of national parks. The too little, too late criticism directed at the CDC in some reports refers to the speed of the international response to the shipboard cluster. rather than a failure to contain a phantom surge in the American wilderness. Public health guidance for those visiting Yellowstone or any region where hantavirus is endemic remains focused on practical, science-based prevention. Because the virus is primarily transmitted through the inhalation of dust contaminated by rodent waste, the most critical advice involves the proper cleaning of potentially infested areas. Experts warn never to sweep or vacuum rodent droppings, as this action is exactly what aerosolizes the virus, making it breathable. Instead, the recommended protocol is to wear rubber or plastic gloves and a high filtration mask, such as an N95, and to thoroughly soak the area with a disinfectant or a mixture of bleach and water. Only after the area is completely wet should the waste be wiped up with a paper towel. This strategy effectively pins the virus to the surface, preventing it from entering the air. For hikers and campers, the advice is to avoid sleeping on bare ground in areas with visible rodent activity and to keep food stored in mouse-proof containers. Surveillance in parks like Yellowstone involves regular trapping and testing of mice to determine the prevalence of the virus within the local population. It is a known limit of science that we cannot predict exactly when or where a specific rodent will carry the virus, which is why health officials treat all rodent waste as potentially infectious. The incubation period for hantavirus is also a challenge for public health monitoring, as symptoms may not appear for 1 to 8 weeks after exposure. This delay means that travel history is a vital piece of information for clinicians. If you have recently spent time in rural or wilderness settings and developed severe respiratory distress, it is essential to disclose that exposure to medical professionals immediately. While the term forbidden zone makes for a compelling headline, the reality is a story of ongoing, disciplined public health work. Yellowstone is not a wasteland, it is a managed ecosystem where risks are identified, monitored, and communicated. Vigilance is required, but panic is not supported by the current data. We will continue to monitor official reports from the CDC and the World Health Organization as the investigation into the Andes virus cluster continues. For more updates on public health and global reporting, consider subscribing to this channel. While the narrative of a forbidden zone within Yellowstone National Park has gained traction, a review of official developments from late April and early May 2026 indicates that the most aggressive and verified hantavirus activity is actually occurring thousands of miles away. On May 8, 2026, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention issued a formal Health Alert Network advisory, or HAN, detailing a specific and concerning cluster of hantavirus cases linked to international travel. This real-world development involves the cruise ship MV Hondius, which departed from Argentina in early April and has since been the subject of an intense, multi-country investigation by the World Health Organization, the Africa CDC, and the European Center for Disease Prevention and Control. Laboratory analysis has confirmed that the pathogen involved in this surge is the Andes virus, a specific strain of hantavirus that differs significantly from the Sin Nombre virus typically found in the American West. According to the WHO, as of May 8, there have been 8 reported cases, 6 confirmed and 2 suspected, resulting in 3 fatalities, representing a case fatality rate of approximately 38%. The core of this investigation focuses on a documented epidemiological link between the cases, which suggests a rare instance of human-to-human transmission. This capability is what likely fuels reports of an aggressive surge, as the Andes virus is currently the only hantavirus known to spread between people through close, prolonged contact. +1 in terms of agency response and laboratory surveillance, the developments are rigorous. The cluster was first identified on May 2, 2026, when a critically ill passenger was medically evacuated to a facility in South Africa. Testing conducted by South African health authorities utilized polymerase chain reaction, or PCR, and advanced sequencing to identify the viral RNA. Since then, the Viral Special Pathogens branch at the CDC has been coordinating with international partners to monitor the 147 passengers and crew members representing 23 different nationalities. Logistic and shipping protocols have been significantly impacted, but not in the way the forbidden zone rumors suggest. The MV Hondius was moored off the coast of Cabo Verde before moving to the Canary Islands, where a specialized CDC team arrived on May 7 to assess exposure risks. For American passengers involved, the U.S. government has organized repatriation to a specialized high-consequence pathogen unit in Nebraska, ensuring they are monitored in a controlled clinical environment. This high-level containment and travel restriction is standard for Andes virus clusters, but has not been applied to Yellowstone National Park. Plus 2. The contrast between the verified international emergency and the claims regarding Yellowstone is supported by the park's own current operational status. As of mid-May 2026, the National Park Service has confirmed that the south entrance and several interior roads have opened according to their regular summer schedule, following a winter season impacted by weather and unrelated federal funding lapses. There is no record of a public health order declaring any part of the park unsafe for life. Surveillance in the park remains focused on the standard monitoring of the deer mouse population, which serves as the local reservoir. Unlike the current shipboard cluster, where the virus is moving between individuals in a confined setting, the risk in the American wilderness remains tied to environmental exposure in specific, isolated structures. Officials from the Wyoming Department of Health and the National Park Service continue to state that while the virus is endemic to the region, there has been no change in the status of public access or safety. The laboratory data and agency statements confirm that while the aggressive Andes virus outbreak is a genuine priority for global health surveillance, it remains localized to the specific travelers of the MV Hondius and does not constitute a regional or domestic surge within the United States. Given the gravity of the current public health landscape, officials from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the National Park Service emphasize that while the term forbidden zone is an inaccurate descriptor for Yellowstone, the reality of hantavirus requires a disciplined, science-based approach to prevention and surveillance. For the general public, the most critical takeaway is the understanding of aerosolization, the process by which the virus becomes airborne. Public health guidance remains steadfast. You should never sweep or vacuum areas where rodent droppings, nests, or urine are present. Doing so kicks viral particles into the air, where they can be easily inhaled. Instead, the established protocol involves a thorough wet cleaning method. This requires wearing rubber or plastic gloves and a high-efficiency particulate air mask, such as an N95, before spraying the affected area with a disinfectant or a mixture of 1 part bleach to 9 parts water. The area must remain soaked for at least 5 minutes to ensure the virus is inactivated. Only then should the waste be wiped up with paper towels and disposed of in sealed bags. For those engaging in outdoor activities, particularly in the western United States, or regions affected by the recent Andes virus developments, basic environmental hygiene is the first line of defense. This includes sealing entry points in cabins or sheds with steel wool or caulk, keeping all food in rodent-proof containers, and airing out closed buildings for at least 30 minutes before entering. From a surveillance standpoint, the work being done by agencies like the National Park Service's Office of Public Health is both rigorous and ongoing. Biosurveillance involves the strategic trapping of deer mice and other rodents to monitor the seroprevalence of the virus within a local population. This data allows officials to issue targeted warnings if the percentage of infected rodents in a specific campground or utility area rises above historical norms. However, scientists acknowledge a significant limit in our current knowledge. While we can track the prevalence of the virus in animals, we cannot predict exactly when or where a specific human exposure will occur. This is why medical professionals urge anyone who has been in rural settings or who has traveled recently on vessels like the MV Hondius to monitor their health for up to 8 weeks, the full extent of the known incubation period. The early symptoms of hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, or HPS, are often indistinguishable from common respiratory infections, involving fever, chills, and deep muscle aches in the large muscle groups of the legs and back. The transition to the cardiopulmonary stage, characterized by a sudden onset of shortness of breath and fluid accumulation in the lungs, can occur rapidly, making early clinical intervention and the disclosure of travel or rodent exposure histories essential for survival. The ethical responsibility of public health reporting in 2026 is to balance the gravity of real outbreaks with the debunking of sensat-analyzed misinformation. While the Andes virus cluster currently under investigation highlights the rare but serious potential for person-to-person spread, there is no evidence to support the claim that national parks like Yellowstone have been declared unsafe for human life. The forbidden zone narrative risks causing unnecessary panic and may lead to a distrust of legitimate health advisories. Honest reporting acknowledges the limits of our reach. For example, there is still no vaccine for hantavirus, and treatment remains limited to supportive care in intensive care units. This lack of a silver bullet solution makes the adherence to basic prevention protocols and transparent surveillance even more vital. Public health is not about closing off the world, but about providing the information necessary to navigate it safely. As of May 11, 2026, the advice from the global health community is clear: stay informed by following verified